NFL spokesman said yesterday that while the league has no rules prohibiting jewelry, it does have a policy prohibiting hard objects. Now, Beckham says he feels like he's being singled out. He said, if anybody else would have worn the watch, if it was a $20 watch, it wouldn't have been a problem. That's just my life. If it ain't this, it's something else. If it wasn't the watch, it would have been the way I've tied my shoes. So he feels as though he's being singled out in a situation like this. You may think, well, just how big a deal is this really? If he gets fined a few bucks, it doesn't really impact the fans that much. But Dan Graziano, you have an important point to make that it could be much more significant than that.
Well, if they're citing the rule prohibiting hard objects and this violates that, then they could keep him off the field until he takes it off. When you play in an NFL game, you get checked out when you come on the field. There's someone there from the league that reviews your uniform to make sure everything's in order. And the hard objects rule generally applies to things like casts or braces. Those have to be checked out. They have to be covered in a soft material and approved before you can go on the field. So if he's wearing it and the league has said you can't wear it because it violates the prohibition against hard objects while you're playing, they could say to him, you're not allowed to play in the game until you take this thing off.
And then what happens? Now, if he says he's not taking it off, he is then not going to be allowed to play in the game. Correct.
This
is Monday night at the Jets.
The way the rule is written, if you're in violation of any of these apparel rules, uniform rules, you're removed from the field until you get rid of the thing, and you're not allowed to play until it's remedied.
RC, you know him. I know you've talked to him in the last day or two. What's he saying?
Well, he's saying he wants everything to be about football. And if you look at what Odell has said about the football game against the Tennessee Titans, it's all been good. It's been the right things to say about the Cleveland Browns moving on and being a better football team. And I'll be honest, I told him, I said, you know what? If they ask you about the watch again, you don't have to tell them that you're going to wear it. You don't even have to tell them that you don't even have to answer the question. And so for me, he wants to be focused on football. He said he's in the best place he has been in his life as far as being happy, as far as being excited about where this team is going, and that's what he wants to focus on. And so it's kind of difficult when your watch is $190,000 and they're going to ask you questions about it.
Well, Domonique, he says he's being singled out. Is he being singled out?
I mean, you know, I'm normally on pro player and defend players at all costs, but this is absurd for him to expect us to believe that he's being singled out. The NFL has been very hard on everybody when it comes to this sort of thing because this, frankly, it affects their money. I understand that they're filing is under the hard objects rule, and they're saying that it's a safety concern, but it's really about how much real or other brands pay, like Nike and Adidas pay in order to get their apparel on the field. They don't want to take away from that with a guy like Odell Beckham wearing this watch. That's what it's really about. And I don't have a problem with him wearing the watch. I don't buy that it's actually a safety concern. My only issue is if you're going to do that, you got to ball, because there's nothing cooler to me than if he went for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns and did that with the price of a house on his wrist.
Right.
That is dope. But you can't go out there and do it for 70 yards. Then that's kind of whack.
Well, I mean, you know him. If they come to him on Monday, the way this works, take me very quickly through this. You walk out onto the field, someone is looking at your uniform, right?
Well, if you're an offensive lineman, you're always checked, right? They want to make sure that you don't have anything on you that's slippery that can get you by defensive linemen as well. But for wide receivers, DBs, there's usually a guy that's just a snitch on the sideline. He wants to make sure your socks are correct or different things like that so you get fined. This is totally different. And you heard Dan say it's usually about casts or objects that are there to help prevent against injury. This is a whole different thing, which is why there is no rule.
But everyone knows to be looking for it now, is my point, right?
Everybody
know to be looking
for
that.
So what will happen is, as he's walking out, there will be a guy standing there, and he will check the watch. He will let him know either you can play with it or you can't. And he's going to have to make a decision there. I believe he makes the decision to go out and play. But if you think there isn't some sort of kickback or some reason that Odell Beckham Jr. is wearing this watch, you have lost your mind.
Well, of course. But the notion that he would not play in an NFL game, a Monday night game again, his return to New York.
That's not a notion.
Because he's wearing a watch. It's not going to happen.
If it comes down to that, Odell Beckham Jr. would take the watch off.
Okay. Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports, highlights, and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.